Before we begin tonight's story, I want you to think about something. Have you ever stayed in an Airbnb and felt like something was off? Maybe a door that was always locked, maybe strange noises in the middle of the night, or maybe that uncomfortable feeling that someone was watching you. Most people ignore those feelings. They tell themselves it's just their imagination. But what if it wasn't? Tonight's story is about a man who rented what seemed like the perfect Airbnb. Beautiful location, great reviews, a friendly host. But after a few strange nights, he discovered a terrifying secret hidden inside the walls of the house. And by the time he realized the truth, it was already too late. If you enjoy true horror stories, creepy encounters, and terrifying mysteries, make sure to subscribe to Nightmare Files and turn on notifications so you never miss a new nightmare. Now turn off the lights, get comfortable, and let's begin. If you've ever stayed in an Airbnb, you've probably noticed little things that feel strange. A family photo left on a shelf, a closet that's locked for storage, a room you're told not to enter. Most people ignore these things. I know I did. And that was my first mistake, because the owner of the Airbnb I rented never actually moved out. He never left. And for 3 nights, I slept in his house while he secretly lived inside it. It started when I accepted a 6-week contract in a small mountain town. The job paid well, the town was quiet, and the Airbnb was cheap. Too cheap, honestly, but I wasn't complaining. The listing showed a beautiful 2-story house surrounded by pine trees. Modern kitchen, large bedroom, private location, 5-star reviews. Everything looked perfect. The host's name was Daniel. His profile picture showed a middle-aged man smiling beside a lake. Friendly, normal, the kind of person you'd trust immediately. When I arrived, the house looked exactly like the photos. Daniel greeted me in person. That should have been the first warning. Most Airbnb hosts simply send instructions. Daniel insisted on meeting me himself. He shook my hand and smiled. "Welcome," he said. "Make yourself at home." He seemed nice, maybe a little too nice. As he gave me a tour, he pointed out every detail. The thermostat, the coffee machine, the television, the emergency exits. And then we reached a door near the end of the upstairs hallway. It was locked. A heavy deadbolt secured it. Daniel paused. His smile faded slightly. "That room is private." I nodded. "No problem. Please don't try to open it." Something about the way he said it felt strange. Not rude, not angry, just serious. I laughed awkwardly. "I'm not planning to." His smile returned instantly. "Good." Then he handed me the keys and left. Or, at least, I thought he left. The first night was normal. I ordered food, watched television, answered emails. Nothing unusual happened. Until around midnight. I was in bed scrolling through my phone when I heard a noise upstairs. A soft creak. I sat up. The house had a second floor. Old wooden floors. Houses make noises. I knew that. But then I heard another one. A footstep. Slow, deliberate, directly above me. I listened carefully. Silence. Then another step. My stomach tightened. I checked my phone. 12:17 a.m. Maybe it was the house settling. Maybe an animal on the roof. Maybe my imagination. Eventually, I fell asleep. The next morning, I convinced myself it was nothing. That explanation lasted until the second night. Around 2 a.m., I woke up thirsty. I walked downstairs toward the kitchen. The house was dark, silent, cold. As I passed the living room, I noticed something strange. The television was on, muted, displaying static. I knew I hadn't turned it on. I always unplug electronics before bed. It's a habit I've had for years. Yet there it was, glowing in the darkness. I walked over and switched it off, and that's when I noticed something else. The front door, unlocked. I stared at it. I specifically remembered locking it twice. I checked every lock before going to sleep. Now, it was open. Not wide open, just enough to create a narrow black gap. A gap leading outside. My heart began pounding. I locked it again, checked every window. Nothing seemed missing. Nothing seemed disturbed. But for the first time, I felt uncomfortable. The house no longer felt empty. It felt occupied. Like someone was sharing it with me. Someone I couldn't see. The next day, I messaged Daniel. I casually asked if anyone else had access to the property. His response arrived almost immediately. No. Just one word. No explanation, no follow-up, no concern. That bothered me more than it should have. Still, I tried to move on. That evening, rain began falling heavily outside. The wind shook the trees. Branches scraped against the windows. By midnight, the entire property felt isolated from the rest of the world. I was watching a movie when I heard it. A door closing upstairs. Not a creak, not a settling sound. A door, slowly, firmly closing. I muted the television. My pulse accelerated. The sound had come from the hallway where the locked room was located. I grabbed my flashlight, and for several seconds I simply sat there, listening. Nothing. Then another sound. A faint cough. A human cough. Coming from upstairs. Someone was in the house. The realization hit me instantly. That cough wasn't coming from outside. It wasn't coming from a television. It came from upstairs. From inside the house. I stood frozen at the bottom of the staircase. The flashlight trembled slightly in my hand. Every instinct told me to leave immediately. But another part of me needed to know. I slowly climbed the stairs, one step at a time. The wooden floor creaked beneath my feet. The hallway was dark. At the far end stood the locked door Daniel had warned me about. Everything looked normal, until my flashlight beam landed on the floor. A wet footprint. Barefoot. Fresh. My heart nearly stopped. The footprint led directly from the locked room toward the bathroom, then disappeared. I stared at it, trying to convince myself there had to be another explanation. But there wasn't. Someone was using that room. Someone was walking through the house. And somehow, they were doing it without me seeing them. I backed away slowly, locked myself in my bedroom, and didn't sleep. The next morning, I called Daniel. He answered immediately. Before I could explain what happened, he interrupted me. Did you go upstairs last night? A chill ran through my body. I never mentioned the hallway. I never mentioned the footprints. I never mentioned hearing someone. Yet somehow he knew. I stayed silent. Then he laughed softly. Old houses make strange noises. And hung up. That was the moment I knew something was wrong. Very wrong. I decided to investigate. That afternoon, while Daniel was supposedly miles away, I examined the house carefully. Behind a bookshelf in the upstairs hallway, I noticed scratch marks on the floor. The shelf wasn't attached to the wall. It moved. Only slightly, but enough. I pushed harder. The bookshelf slid sideways, revealing a narrow hidden door. My stomach dropped. Behind it was a passage, a secret corridor built inside the walls. Dust covered everything, but there were recent footprints. Fresh footprints. Someone had been using it. Recently. Very recently. I followed the passage. The air smelled stale. The walls felt impossibly close. After several feet, the corridor opened into a hidden observation room. There was a mattress, food wrappers, water bottles, a portable charger, and something else. Photographs. Dozens of photographs. Of me. Sleeping. Cooking. Watching television. Working on my laptop. Some had clearly been taken only days earlier. I couldn't breathe. Someone had been watching me the entire time. Every day. Every night. The realization was horrifying. But what terrified me most was a notebook sitting beside the mattress. Inside were handwritten notes. Notes about me. He usually sleeps around 11:30. Locks front door twice. Works from laptop until late. Still hasn't discovered passage. My hands began shaking. This wasn't random. This wasn't a burglary. Someone was studying me, learning me, living with me. Then I heard footsteps. Close. Very close. Inside the walls. Coming toward me. I turned off my flashlight immediately. The passage fell into darkness. The footsteps stopped. For several seconds, there was silence. Then, a voice. Soft. Whispering. Almost amused. "You're not supposed to be here." The voice belonged to Daniel, the Airbnb host, and he was inside the walls. Fear took over instantly. I ran. I didn't care how much noise I made. I shoved past the hidden door, raced down the hallway, grabbed my car keys, and sprinted outside. The moment I reached my vehicle, I called the police. This time, I had evidence. Photographs, the notebook, the hidden passage, everything. Officers arrived within 20 minutes. At first, they seemed skeptical. Until they discovered the secret corridor. Then, everything changed. The search lasted hours. The hidden spaces extended throughout the house. Inside the attic, behind walls, under the staircase. The entire structure had been modified years earlier, designed so someone could move throughout the house unnoticed. And Daniel knew every inch of it. Near midnight, officers finally found him, hidden behind a false wall inside the attic. He didn't resist. He didn't run. He simply smiled, as if he had expected this moment all along. The investigation uncovered something even more disturbing. I wasn't the first guest. Not even close. For years, Daniel had rented the property online. Hundreds of guests had stayed there. Meanwhile, he secretly lived inside the house, watching, listening, recording, studying. The police discovered thousands of photographs, videos, personal journals, detailed observations about former guests. No one knew exactly how long he had been doing it, but investigators believed it had been happening for nearly a decade. The story quickly spread through local news. Former guests began contacting authorities. Many described strange experiences, missing items, doors opening, unexplained noises, the feeling of being watched. For years, people thought they were imagining things. They weren't. Daniel was always there, watching from inside the walls. Months later, the house was permanently closed. No one wanted to buy it. No one wanted to enter it. The structure was eventually demolished. But even that wasn't enough to erase what happened. Because some things stay with you, even after they're gone. I still think about that hidden room, those photographs, that notebook. The fact that someone knew my daily routine better than I did. And sometimes, when I stay in hotels or vacation rentals, I find myself checking the walls, looking for unusual gaps, listening for sounds at night, watching closets, watching ceilings, watching mirrors. Because once you've discovered someone secretly living inside your home, you never fully trust a house again. And the worst part? A few weeks after Daniel's arrest, police reviewed footage from his hidden cameras. One recording showed me standing in the hallway outside the locked room, looking directly at the wall, less than 3 feet away from where Daniel was hiding, watching me the entire time. Thank you for listening. And remember, the next time you rent a house from a stranger, make sure you're the only guest staying there.